So what I wanted to do in this session is actually talking about LLMs. LLMs, aka ChatGPT, Gemini, and a couple of others. They are a tremendously useful tool for job search and for writing resume and for career. And I'll give a few examples of how to use them. Now, what I wanted to say is that actually I did not put a lot of effort to optimize them, just to show you how useful those things are. So this is, the purpose of this is not to show you the best prompt. I just kind of slapped them together. The purpose of this is to show you how fast you can get to very valuable insights without actually doing a lot of work. There are courses or guides on how to write good prompt. I would highly recommend to put maybe half an hour into that to know how to do it. It's the quality of what you put in many cases is the quality of what you get out. And with that, let's start. So the agenda for this meeting is how to use LLMs. I will take ChatGPT as an example, but you can use Gemini or others. I was just more familiar with ChatGPT over the time. You're welcome to comment and ask questions in the chat or raise your hand. We're a small group, so we can make this dynamic. After this, Sigalit will give a talk about insights into maybe the job search and the resume. She has a presentation about this. After Sigalit presentation, we're going to do a resume review. So you're welcome to send your resume to, if you haven't, to Itay at itayonsoftware.com to participate. Please remove, this is recorded, please remove your telephone, your name. I doubt that people will see this video and then start calling you with trying to sell you things. But for privacy, I think it's always better to remove those. And then we're going to have some Q&A as much as time permits. We have a hard stop at 7. And the recording will be posted on the YouTube channel, itayonsoftware.com. That's where I post every time that there is a question that is useful, I think, to other people, or a session that I do, I try to record it and publish it. Some of the people on the talk, like Akshay, have participated with some of those videos. So a bit about me, just that you know who I am. Kind of a context of who I am, where I'm coming from, what do I know, and why do I do it. So the first thing to know is, let's talk about currently what I'm doing. So I work at Google for more than 8 years. This is not a Google initiative at all, just stating a fact. I'm a senior product manager there. I'm also involved with different technical initiatives. So the W3C, those who don't know, it's the Web Consortium for Web Standards. This is a place that I co-chair protected auctions, trusted services. I'm also an adjunct professor at Cal State Fulton. I teach computer science. I taught for the last year 546, which is a course in modern software management, kind of combination of software architecture and software processes. There, when I ask the students, what do you want to learn about? Everybody says, hey, you know, like about careers and jobs and stuff like that. So I started to do this material and started recording it. I'm also a founder at a company called Big Book Analytics that aims to help people to get published. I am a career mentor. I volunteer at Hire Heroes USA, helping veterans to US veterans to find a career path in the software space. And I also have itayonsoftware.com. It's a YouTube channel where I record some of my activities and put them in. In the past, I was a senior director of platform at Moody's, pretty technical roles. I was also a data product manager at Nokia back in the heydays, and database and platform engineer at Hewlett Packard. I've been a software engineer for multiple years, and I hold an MBA from MIT and a couple of other degrees in computer science and math. So this is who I am, where I'm coming from. So let's start. The most important thing to understand, and this is how we're going to use the LLMs in this session, finding a position is a job. That's really, really crucial to understand. And it's not the job of being an engineer. It's a completely different job. It's kind of like working in the book space. Writing a book and marketing a book, those are two separate jobs. Same thing here. Being good at what you're doing, good as a software engineer, and being good at finding a job, those are two things that kind of maybe a bit related and help each other, but that's not really how it works. So you need to also be good at finding a job, and that's different. So I'm not going to go into the mock interviews or all the other things that you need to know, but I'll talk about a couple of activities where LLMs could help you. The first is just finding those jobs. Now, it's important to understand that when you find those jobs, there is the online and offline. Online is jobs that you can just you go to like a Google search and you put some keywords and find some positions. You say software engineer, AI, Irvine. So this is one way to do it. Offline could be quite effective because this is good for positions that are not listed and also to references. Offline is where you talk with people, let's say from the industry, and they kind of know what's going on, and they refer to you. And they either refer you or tell you about those positions that may not be listed. In small companies, they might even be created just for you. And then there is the direct and indirect positions. So getting direct positions would mean targeting that company. Indirect is going to be like venture capital. So you don't go to the startup companies, you would go to the venture capital that will take you to that companies. So this is an example of an indirect. So this is something that you need to be good at in order to even learn about those opportunities. The second thing is evaluating your current fit. So when you found a position, right, now you have a position, maybe even a job posting, and it's in front of you, how much of a fit are you for that position? And this is not to necessarily just tell you a score, like, oh, I think I can make it, I think I cannot make it. You can do something with that, and we're going to talk about that. The third thing you need to be good at is just pitching yourself to someone you don't know. Now, why is that important? If you go through job sites, there is extra hops. And I'm not even talking about recommendations. If you go through job site, there are 2 more people that you need to pass. Well, 3 more people. 3 more things you need to pass. The first is you need to pass the automatic screenings, which could drop your resume for various reasons. The second thing, you need to pass the recruiter, which could also drop your resume for various reasons. And the third is you need to get to the hiring manager that you're actually interested in. Remember, a lot of recruiters, they kind of cover an area and there are multiple people that are hiring. And yeah, maybe they send an email, hey, I have like this candidate, maybe you're interested. And maybe somebody is busy or not busy. Maybe they read it, maybe they don't read it. So it's important to know that when you are reaching out to company, if possible, it's always the best to do it not through a job site, but through a person that will refer you. And it's not as difficult as it sounds, because remember, if you're managing a group and you see a reasonable candidate, then why not? There is a job position, you're looking for people, so why wouldn't you refer them? And if you are a person from this org, sometimes there is referral bonuses. So you're thinking to yourself, yeah, sure, why not? Maybe I'll collect some, whatever, $1,000. So this is something you need to be good at, and I'll demonstrate an example from scratch. Another thing that you need to be good at is building your resume. Now, building your resume and writing your resume is not the same thing. Building your resume is making actions in order to make your resume better. So for example, somebody is saying JavaScript, okay? Like, I want you to have JavaScript experience. You can go to Fiverr, get, I don't know, like a project and program something at React. Maybe you also make some money. But now, hey, you have experience. Or take some course or do some university course about AI or something that's might be even just a semester. You can get pretty far with that, and I'll talk a bit about that. The fifth thing that you need to be good at is writing your resume. Writing resume, I consider that having two parts. The first is a generic quality. What does it mean, generic quality? Is the resume that you sent to me. Is it good in general, from a generic quality point perspective? Not necessarily fit for a certain position. The second thing is a fit for a certain position. So personalization. Personalization is, in many cases, the thing that will give you the edge at applying to that position. And it's also important to do it because if you don't hit all the check boxes, your resume might get dropped. So it's important to highlight things that you think are reasonable, and sometimes even do some effort to gain some experience in order to list it. Important to understand about LLM. LLM is not an attitude. It's just a type of a skill that you can improve, or a tool. So you need to come with an attitude of, this is a job, I'll become better in that job, of finding a job or developing a career. And LLM can help you with that. And I'll show a couple of examples. And by purpose, by the way, I did not put a lot of effort in those examples because I didn't want to craft to you, like sometimes you see like those videos that maybe AI has done, and who knows how many hours people put into that in order to make those beautiful videos and how many tries there were. On purpose, I did not make tries because I wanted to show you how from the get-go, with like, what can you get with basically, I would not say 30 seconds. 30 seconds, you need to load the page and everything, but let's say no more than a few minutes of work. And the last thing I want to say is learn how to write prompts. It's kind of fuzzy instruction in, you get fuzzy results out. Okay? So learn how to write prompts. And let's go to the first example. The first example is going back to a tip. Hit the checkbox. There is a position. The position is listing, hey, you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? That is the qualification, right? So you need to hit as many of those as possible. Now, those is not always going to be, oh, they are asking for, I don't know, C++ and I don't have a C++. It's sometimes going to be like teamwork or something like that, and you want to make sure that you hit that, especially on the soft part. But even if they ask something like C++, again, knowing that gap helps, and maybe you don't have C++, but you have Java, and maybe it's close enough. So at least that would be something to highlight. So in this example, I work with ChatGPT. If you haven't worked in the past, I highly recommend to do it. The 3.5 now is free. It's pretty good. 4, I think it's like $20 a month, and I think it's worth it. You're also recommend to use to try Gemini and other LLMs and see which one works for you. Again, I work with ChatGPT here just because I was more familiar with that for a longer time. I used it a lot as a professor. So what I would say is I'm telling ChatGPT here, this is kind of how you do like a bot. I haven't actually done the entire thing, but basically I tell him, you're a candidate evaluator. Your goal is as follows. Read the candidate resume and the resume. So what I'm doing is I'm putting like tokens. So I just take the resume and copy it in. I remove the name because it doesn't really matter. So I just copy it in. Then I say, read the position and the position. I copy the position as is, no editing, no nothing. Even with the I don't know, diversity statement and everything, I just copy it in. Then I'm saying list 3 areas where my qualifications are strong. Why is this important? Because when you're going to talk with the recruiter, those are your talking points that you want to highlight. List 3 areas where my qualifications are weak or lacking. So at least you're aware of that. And again, there are things that you can do. We'll talk about it as the part of the building of the resume. List 3 responsibilities that I've demonstrated. Responsibilities and qualifications are different. Responsibility is what you're supposed to do. That's what you will be responsible on. Qualification is how they think that you will be able to be responsible for that. So sometimes doing the responsibility and the qualification helps because maybe they are looking for somebody that has experience in, I don't know, like object-oriented programming, and maybe you programmed in, I don't know, C++ instead of Java, but is that really a deal breaker? If you read the responsibility, you can see. So a responsibility that I've demonstrated. Again, one of the things with responsibility is there is this past performance is an indication for future performance. Companies usually prefer to hire people that have done very similar things in the past role. So that is the point where maybe rewriting to highlight the similarities in the role would be useful. And question? No, sorry. List 3 responsibilities that I have not demonstrated. Okay, so no areas where there are gaps. Summarize and give a position fit score with explanation. Now, why is this useful? It's because you can see how I can do it for like 100 positions. It's a script, right? If you program in, like, it's not that difficult. I mean, you can just take 100 and just say position 1, 2. You can either do it manually or do it through some API calls. It's not a big deal. API calls are pretty cheap with, programming, or not even programming. It's like, I'm sure somebody created a bot somewhere for those things. So this is just to give you an example. You can do it again as many positions as you want. It will help you to use bullet points in discussions with hiring managers or with recruiters. Make sure that to demonstrate what's needed, if possible. So what it means is if something is in the responsibility and it's required, try to be close to that as possible. At larger companies, you will have to be much closer. With smaller companies, it's going to be more like, okay, can you do this role? So it's going to be more around the responsibilities. So with that, let's take an example. Okay. So in this example, I queried just exactly that, right? I've done exactly as I said. First try, I just took, somebody sent me the resume. I removed the name, data-driven recruitment professional. So this is somebody who has been a recruiter. So not even maybe a territory that I'm like extremely familiar with. I just copied as is. I just copy paste here the resume. No work more than that. Right? And again, this is me not knowing anything. I haven't even taken a look. It was about 2 pages, so I took a look at that. And then I copied the position. I just took recruiter, like just the line. I put it on Google search. A position came, PayPal, that was available as a remote. And I just took it and copied it in. Like, it's just a copy. You see, as is, like no editing, no formatting, no nothing. Right? Even the description of PayPal, all in. So I just wanted to show you the capabilities of what can you do with that as a tool. And again, like if you customize and personalize the resume and understand how it's fit, that could be a very great edge. And I'll show you also how to use it, right? So let's talk about the strengths, if this is a fit. So I said highlight the 3 things. So you can see extensive experience in technical recruitment, right? That's one. It's going to make sense. A decade of experience, cool. That looks good. Proven track record of meeting and exceeding hiring goals. The person that wrote it, they put metrics. Excellent. And expertise in sourcing tools and strategy. Now, what are the weaknesses? The weakness is that here PayPal has specified a certain CRM system, right? ATS and certain CRM systems. They're specific systems, I guess. Now, there was no experience with that. We're going to talk about how potentially to bridge that. However, that's something that may be worth to be aware of. The second thing, now, if you haven't worked with a specific system, specific recruiting system, that might be difficult to bridge. However, there is number 2 and number 3. Number 3 is limited emphasis on talent intelligence collaborations. What could be talent intelligent teams or talent neuron tools, which are highlighted in PayPal job description. Now, over more than a decade, maybe that person ran into that. Could be, makes sense. So that could be something to know that is required to highlight, and it's currently missing. Now, that person might say, yeah, it's not a big deal or something, but remember, the recruiter that reads the resume, in many cases, they don't know what's a big deal and what's not a big deal. They just see 1,000 resumes, and they need to chop them. So even if you don't think it's a big deal, please do list them if you've done it. And unclear experience with organizational design and structures. Okay? Now, this is maybe something that that person has done. However, again, not highlighted. In the responsibilities, remember, there is the qualification and the responsibilities. Qualification is like, this is what I think you should need. Responsibilities is like, this is what you should do. In many cases, if you don't have qualification, try and go for the responsibility. Okay? So at least you can demonstrate that you can do the job, even if you don't have what they think that you need in order to do the job. So demonstrated responsibility, again, building, executing, sourcing campaign. There's a bunch of details. Partnering with hiring managers. And it has candidate and client experience. However, no demonstrated responsibilities, working with specific systems that they highlighted. Again, Workday Recruit and Greenhouse. That person, again, can breach that. Pretty sure there is some course or something out there that they can learn something or do something with that. Direct collaboration with talent intelligence teams and developing social media sourcing strategy. You see, the third one is different. So you could say responsibilities and recruiting are not the same. Responsibilities and qualifications are not the same. Because as you can see, now you have something new. You're responsible for something new. Now, they might not have listed this in the requirements. I haven't read it. But still good. Still you have an opportunity to highlight, right? If you use social media, and I'm sure the person used social media at some degree, it's an opportunity to highlight those. And again, summary and position fit score, in the end, 8 out of 10. Very well suited, missing potentially some specific things that could potentially be breached. Okay? This is the first example of how to use LLM. Now, I just want to be clear. I put a position that I don't really understand and haven't read. I put a resume that I haven't read. I just dumped them in. I put a prompt that I barely put any effort in doing, and that's what I got. Pretty useful. Imagine what you can do if you read your resume carefully and optimize. And I'll give you a few more examples. Any questions so far? Okay.
Itay, just a quick question here. Oh, looks like there's a hand.
Raise his hand, Akshay.
Yep. I just want to ask, like you said, we can get like feedback from the chat GPT, but how can we integrate that feedback into the resume back again? Like, do I need to like change the existing bullet points completely, or should I be adding more data?
This is an excellent point, and it goes back to your ability to trust ChatGPT. I don't trust. I trust information. I don't trust to rewrite it for me. Because first, it doesn't know exactly what you did. Like, it doesn't know if you used Greenhouse or did not use Greenhouse. How will you rewrite it? It doesn't know. And the second thing, it sometimes would use a language that you might not want or include things that you might not want. So I would use it as suggest, and then write it myself, and then do check that this is like a good, well-written resume, which I'm going to highlight how. At the most basic level, you can do check grammar. Always check grammar. At another level, I'm going to show how to do it. So I would say, don't just ask him to write your resume. That's like very, very risky. Ask to evaluate the resume and then make the changes that you need.
Right. That helps.
Cool. Ray, you had a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. I was actually typing it as you were talking about it, but now that I have a chance, I was looking to understand when you're demonstrating pasting the resume information and the job description in GPT 3.5, did you ever run into a situation where you ran over the word limit that the GPT 3.5 can handle? And if you ever run into that situation, you could not paste either the whole resume or the job description into a single prompt. How do you get around that situation?
It's GPT-4. That's the short answer. and it has a context window very large, so you won't run out for like resume and position.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
$20 a month. So,
thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, let's continue. The second tip, which also the video on my channel, do not apply through a site if you can avoid it. So what do? I'll show you an example. So in this case, the operator, you are an email writer that helps the user to start a conversation. Sorry, I'm showing that happens sometimes. Okay, now you see, right? Cool. So operator, you're an email writer that helps the user to start a conversation via email with a person. That person is someone I never met, but I saw his public post. I want to email him, so he will refer me to a job or provide me with more information. Okay? Now, I did it on purpose, no prior knowledge, no nothing. So the person that sent it to me said, I'm interested in AI position. So I said, read the candidate under resume, read position under position. I looked for the AI, I found an AI position at Zoom, pretty random, just the first one that appeared. Then I said, the target person, I was like, AI at Zoom. I went to LinkedIn, found their head of engineering AI, copied the resume in the latest post. Really, that simple. I haven't even read, nothing. And put the recent publication. And I asked to write a concise email based on the above, where I'm asking what the best way to learn more about the position. Okay? Unless it's like a defense project or some government thing, you can usually find someone to apply through in public forum. Remember, in the end, the people from the group that manage the group, they need employees. So unless you go to the CEO or something too high, they're like, yeah, I mean, we need candidates. And if you look legit, they're going to be like, cool. Worst case, again, just send an email to some software engineer working in that group. That works pretty well at groups where you can identify which part of it. If it's just, software engineer in Apple, that's like too vague. But often you can find someone from that group. Always review and revise the email before sending. That goes back, I think, to actually question. Don't trust the output to be good. Use that as kind of something that you use as input. Okay? But this is, again, just for the demonstration. So let's click on that. Again, operator, you're an email writer that helps the user start a conversation. Education, this is a student from Fulton who's interested in AI. I just dumped everything in. Again, haven't even read. On purpose, by the way. The position, AI software engineer at Zoom, just dumped it in, no format, no nothing. Okay? Even about us, our commitment, things that might be relevant. The target, I just copied from LinkedIn. It's a person, head of AI at Zoom. That's it. I don't know anything about this person. We're not connected. You can see here the post, the recent post, you see? I even copied in LinkedIn the post. And then recent publication, I just added the last thing he published. That's simple. That's it. I haven't read it, no nothing. Something with immersive, no, not immersive read it, Zoom AI companion. No idea what it is. And again, this is not for you to become a spammer. It's very important to understand. This is for you to know why this person should reply to you. When you understand why this person replied to you, you should look into that email, actually do the reading, make sure that the email is correct. Don't be like an automatic thing spammer. This is just for you to know what are the talking points that you can reach that person. Again, that's a better way to think about it. That's, by the way, to not spam people. That's very important. And that's one of the main reasons why you don't automatically send this email. You want to read it before and make sure that it's true to what you want to say and your position on this. Okay? Let's see what ChatGPT done with all this information. Subject: Inquiry about AI software engineering role and learning opportunities at Zoom. The language is sometimes off, but let's see what it highlighted. Again, just dumped it. I hope this message finds you well. My name is, and I'm currently completing my Master of Science of Computer Science, California State University, Fulton, with a focus on machine learning and AI, right? Took everything from the resume. I recently came across the software engineering position at Zoom, which aligns perfectly with my academic background and project. Of course, read that position to make sure that this is valid. Don't just kind of say things that are not true. With a solid foundation in Python, Java, C++, and experience in deep learning, neural networks, and data preprocessing, and you can see it extracted it, right? Deep learning, neural networks, data preprocessing. It read the resume, saw what's a fit, and read it and wrote it. I'm keen on contributing to innovative AI solutions. My work includes developing machine learning models for predictive analysis and enhancing. Second. Okay. And enhancing model accuracy through robust dataset creation. Again, taken from the resume. Additionally, my involvement in projects with the Wordy Gang, backend development, and movie datasets, including Hadoop, has equipped me with a deep understanding of concept, algorithm, and software engineering best practices. It's a bit kind of wordy and stuff, but you see that there is some information here that might be useful. I'm particularly inspired by Zoom commitment to integrating AI into its platform to enhance productivity and collaboration, as evident in the recent publication about Zoom AI Companion. Okay, this is important. Don't bullshit. So it needs to, feel comfortable, feel like whatever you write needs to be correct. Given your leadership in AI and software engineering at Zoom, I would greatly, which is true, read it from the LinkedIn, I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to learn more about the AI software engineering role and the team going project. Could you advise the best someone with my background for the exploring? Thank you for considering. Looking forward to the possibility of contributing to many of it. So as you can see, it didn't took too much maybe from the post. Again, this is just the first try. It didn't took too much from the post. However, again, with a different post, it might have taken it, but it referred to the post. You see? As evident in the recent publication about the Zoom AI Companion, when you're reaching out to a person, don't be like just randomly. It's very important, like say if someone is reaching to me and they've seen a video and they're asking a question on the video. That's give me much more incentive maybe to answer than if somebody's like, hey, can you help me with something? And they don't know anything about me and they just kind of spam me. So all this personalization distinguish you maybe from a spammer. So, I asked, okay, shorter and to the point. Mr. is a busy person. Then it says, you see, MS in Computer Science, California State, focus on AI and machine learning, followed your work at AI at Zoom, very interested in the software engineer position, Zoom San Jose location, given your expertise and my background in Python, Java, C++, it knows what to highlight. An AI project work, okay, because there's many things to highlight in the resume. Why that? Keen to learn more how it can contribute. See, not perfect. Could potentially maybe have some BS, so you need to make sure that what's writing is correct. But from nothing, it puts you on something. And that's the point of it. It's not going to get you all the way, but pretty close with just copying stuff in. Make sense? Cool. Any questions? Okay, next one. So we have 5 examples, and then we'll go to Sigal. Put some time to becoming a fit. Okay? So here I took, as a career advisor, analyze the gaps between a job position and a resume. Okay? Because you can do something, right? Suggest quick solutions, up to 3 works for bridging gaps. For gaps that cannot be quickly bridged, recommend how to leverage your existing resume strengths to compensate. Include relevant links where applicable, and mention the likelihood that those gaps will be in similar position. Now, remember, this is something I always told my students. Your best bet is always to apply to a cluster of similar position. It's the easiest way to differentiate yourself in a time economic way. It's very difficult. The chance of you getting that position that you apply to, even if you're a perfect match, is not like 50%. It's probably much lower than that, even if you're a perfect match. Now, considering that, you cannot put too much effort into optimizing in one position. However, let's assume that somebody is targeting a cluster. I'll give you an example. Backend engineer in ad tech, advertising technology. They can get some domain. They can know some people. They can read something that happens in the industry. They can get themselves an edge over somebody who's just generic. So something I always advise to people is pick a cluster, not small, not too small, so there is enough companies there, but not like, everything. And try and be really good in that. And if that means put in a month, put that month into courses or everything else. So let's see that example. So in bridging this resume gaps, I said, yeah, as a career advisor, analyze the gaps, suggest something that I can do in like 3 weeks, right? Not perfect, but again, I just gave it a try. I put the software engineer here, 5+ years of experience on cloud-based solution from Cal State Fulton. I'm going to mention name, it's okay. And software engineer 3, Java backend, policy solution, right? It's a position. Just copy it in, okay? And now it's analyzing the gaps, okay? Now, the first gap that it found, this is like an, I think it was Guidewire or some insurance company. So it says, you don't have experience with the P&C insurance industry, okay? So it's a gap. They're looking for somebody with experience. Now, will you have a 1 year of experience if you want to build a resume? No, you're not going to have 1 year, but you can have a course, you can have something. That's a differentiation. Remember, something is more than nothing, because it shows some level of commitment, understanding, something that could differentiate you. You might think it's not too much, but hey, other people don't have nothing that's specific to the P&C insurance. So if you have something, that could be an edge. A quick solution suggested here is, of course, take a course, because the course is the easiest to do in a few weeks. If you've done more time, to potentially be something different. Guidewire platform experience, difficult again. Potentially you can read about this and you could maybe understand how it works or learning about this. So at least be familiar with the product. Because if you're familiar with the product, you can put that in your cover letter. You can always send to somebody and say, hey, I've seen like this product that you're working on. I saw that you are integrating, let's say, AI or something different. I'm very interested in that. I think we can, just the fact that you read the product and know even what the product is and can see maybe how you can fit there could be an edge. The third is design principles and pattern, right? It says, the person says that they have a strong background in design. However, it says solid, which are not, again, mentioned. Solid principle, and hexagonal architecture. I don't know what it is. But that person might be worth reading on it, and if they've done it, to put that keyword. I don't know what it is. Strategies for the gaps. Again, the microservices and the Docker experience. Potentially highlight it a bit more. Highlight the Agile experience. And showcase your communication and team collaboration skills. Those gaps are elements that, again, you can do something about. Likelihood of similar, I don't think that was too useful, but again, on purpose, I did not try to over-optimize those queries, and that's okay. Sometimes I guess it's not perfect. Again, cluster of positions, that's the best advice. Okay, last one is have a well-written resume. So here on purpose, I took a resume of somebody who was a recruiter, assuming that recruiters will put a lot of effort in making a nice resume, and see if I can find something else. Your resume advisor, provide you with the resume. So a couple of things on the resume that you want to check. Use of good grammar, right? It's like generic, just don't have like grammar mistake. Use of action verbs, concise. By the way, ChatGPT, when you give it like a PDF or something, it just translates it to text, so it cannot give you like a template issue, just for you to be aware. So it's just like copying text. That's at least from my experience. Easy to understand, make it tangible and measurable. Jargon that is non-standard on this type of resume, just don't do it. Any non-standard resume items, if you have like a big section about your ballroom dancing, maybe not the best place to put it. And length of different items considering importance. Okay. Give scores for each items. If improvements are needed, give quotes. This is examples. In addition, ask me questions to improve the resume. Why ask me questions? Because ChatGPT doesn't know like if you've done more stuff that they can add, right? So they need to ask you. So let's see what happened here. So professional summary. This is the recruiter. Let's send the resume. And the position. Oh, sorry, this is my bad. This is without position because we're just checking generic that the resume is good. What ChatGPT said, use of good grammar, 9 out of 10, again, assuming from somebody working sourcing. Use of action verbs, it's okay, however, pretty repetitive, so you might want to mix it up a bit. Concise, sometimes the resume could benefit from being more concise on a certain area. It actually gives an example. Like when you put those parentheses like, ML, data, AI, FE, mobile and backend, it might feel like a bit like a grocery list. So it recommends to be more concise. Okay, template, let's fix. Easy to understand, 8 out of 10. Generally easy to understand. This is something that was highlighted, jargon, okay? You don't always know who exactly this will land in. Maybe they don't know that FE, I assume it's front end. Maybe they don't know exactly. Some things maybe DI are kind of more common. Some things maybe like FE not. Maybe clarifying those things, maybe use full and then abbreviation could be useful. Tangible and measurable. Specifying the impact sometimes was missing. Again, the jargon, that was one thing. So there was like a lot of kind of abbreviation in the resume. And I think that's something that it cut. No non-standard resume items. The length was actually cut. So length of different items considering importance. So the length is not proportional to recency and to importance. So this is something important to understand. In the US, and again, this is my estimation, in the US, people like to see like going up in the fit for that position. It's kind of like you're building yourself towards it, which also means that things that you've done more recently should be bigger for the amount of years that you spend. So you want to make sure that things are kind of proportional. And then some questions to improve the resume. Okay, last one is personalize the resume. Why personalize? Personalize gives you an edge. You've done many, many, many things. The chance that your resume will cover all of the things that you've done that's going to be perfect for the position is pretty low. Remember, you're given a proposal. Your resume is a proposal. It's a proposal for you to do the work. Now, if you don't know what the work it is, it's very difficult to write a generic proposal, right? Like maybe some organizations are going to have large teams, other you're going to be like an IC, others you might work more on AI, the other more on backend, others you would need to do integrations or work with clients, the other you won't. Like it's very hard to have a generic resume. Because what is a resume? A resume is your proposal to do the work. And different work requires different proposal. So in this case, I said, okay, resume will be provided under resume. Position will be provided under position. Do not make up stuff. Sometimes you need to highlight this. Ask me questions if you're unsure about adding stuff. We don't want like hallucination type of things. Suggest what should be dropped from resume to improve position relevance. Suggest what should be expanded to show relevance. Suggest what should be rewritten to emphasize certain parts, and give quotes from the text for each suggestions with explanations. Again, I wrote it in 1 minute on purpose, just to show you what you can do without spending a lot of time in optimization. If AI doesn't give you the answer you want, don't be afraid to nudge it. You don't have to go back to the prompt all the time. Just say, hey, I don't like this, do more like that, and it will continue to fix in it. Remember, it's called chat for a reason, because you chat with it. Okay? So let's see. This is again the recruiter, going back to the PayPal position. Again, Cinetech PayPal position. What did it find? Expand your experience with applicant tracking system and CRM. In the original, PayPal kind of highlighted it, so maybe it's good to highlight technologies. Yeah, maybe you haven't worked exactly with this system, but they won't expand more about this. Highlight social networking and Boolean search skills. Okay. At the original, it says adapted passive candidate sourcing using Boolean searches. They said, okay, like highlight this. Given the job description, emphasize on social networking and Boolean search skills. Maybe it's more permanent. It even gives you suggestions of how to rewrite. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but it's an area that, again, you can further personalize. By the way, one thing I want to highlight here for you is the fact that personalization with those automatic tools does not take long. You could just change like 3, 4, 5 things. It's usually going to be also similar between position. It's not going to take you more than maybe several minutes, and you can really increase your odds here. Emphasize strategic initiatives and business goal alignment. I won't go too much into that for time. Detail your experience with talent. Okay, remove or de-emphasize less relevant roles. This was a big one. So personalizing your resume is adding, expanding, but also remove. The suggestion here was to remove and de-emphasize less relevant roles. Given the technical focus on PayPal position, consider de-emphasizing roles that are less relevant to technical sourcing or where the technical aspects is not highlighted. For example, early non-technical position might be condensed to focus more on your recent relevant experience. Okay, so I think this is the same suggestion as before. Like, talk about things that are talk less. So this is maybe something in this resume that could improve. One said, talk less about what you've done in the past, in the far past, right? And this one says, talk less about what's not relevant, which is kind of the same thing. Now, that person may have done things that they're very, very, very proud of. But again, for the proposal of doing the job, it might not be relevant. And certification or continued education, right? So I asked ChatGPT, I wasn't too happy. I said, give me suggestions on what I should drop for my resume with quotes on explanation, okay? The first thing, again, early non-technical position. You see repeating theme of this resume. And this resume, again, came from a person that I'm pretty sure put a lot of effort into it. The second is general descriptions lacking specific relevance, okay? So you can see here, right? Focus, self-directed, and highly motivated with a passion for building talent system, developing and implementing efficient staffing processes, protocols, and ensuring a white glove client and candidate experience, all the way to offer, accept, and onboarding, okay? It's kind of, reading this section, by the way, now I would fix something in my prompt, make sure I'm objective and not subjective, right? Highly motivated, who said so? That's a very subjective statement, right? Or focused. That's again subjective. It's not demonstrated through like an objective way. So that's one thing. And the second thing that's highlighted here, again, kind of relating to that, is that it's kind of like a bit generic. So I think that's, again, something to take into consideration. Detailed descriptions of non-recruitment related duties. Again, we kind of go back to that. That person have done some wonderful things. This is a recruiting position. So sometimes you need to de-emphasize things that are maybe irrelevant. Repeated mentioning of similar tools and strategies, so maybe some duplications highlighted. Overly broad statement on D&I effort. This is like a quote, upgraded all product and technology job description to reflect the comprehensive D&I tone and messages using gender decoder platform. Important, but without some outcomes. It wasn't clear, like were more people hired? What exactly happened here? And that's it. So that's it from me. Any questions before we move to Sigal? I thought it's going to be 15 minutes, but like in class, it took a bit more. That's okay. Any more questions? Akshay.
Yes, Professor. I had like a couple of questions regarding like a few points you mentioned in, I think, tip number 3 or tip number 4. So when you said we have to basically add some sort of skill sets in the resume which is missing from the job description. So that might be very specific to a given job description, and you recommended like the candidate should put some efforts into that direction if they don't know the functional idea about that job description. So is it recommended to do that for like multiple job roles, or otherwise the candidate should only focus on the positions which are very relevant to his experience?
Okay, so let's be realistic. And I'm going to give you some numbers. And again, maybe I'm off. With good targeting, maybe for 100 positions, you can get maybe 1 or 2 offers. I think that's usually the statistic that I've seen. And that's assuming that it's good. So that means that you need to apply to maybe 100 positions to get the position that you want to get hired. Those are the numbers, give or take. Maybe I'm off a bit, but let's assume you're doing good work. So the question is, can you spend 3 weeks to learn some system for a position in order to increase your odds from, let's say, 1% to 3%? And the answer is likely no. However, if you have a cluster of positions, let's give you an example. PNC Insurance, there are multiple companies in the PNC Insurance, there's not just one. There are multiple of them. If you think that this is a growing industry, you see a bunch of positions, maybe it's worth it to put those 3 weeks and send it to 15 companies. That's kind of how I'm thinking about this. But realistically, you can put those 3 weeks. So let's say on average, if you want to put, if this is your job and you're working on it maybe 12 hours a week, and you want to find work within half a year, okay, that gives you about maybe, 250 hours or something like that.
Mhm.
So you can put maybe, and that's including interviews and a bunch of other things. So let's say like resume, like maybe 2 hours, let's say 2 hours, something like that. So again, you cannot put 3 weeks. But if now you have a cluster of 20 companies, and you need to put, let's say, to do a React project or to learn something in like, say, 30 or 50 or 60 hours, then it's worth it. Because you're increasing your odds again from 1% to 3%. So you get return for that investment. And you end up with a better position. That's why I say go after a cluster.
I think, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so we have 30 more minutes. I know Sigalit is a hard stop. So to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to meet you all. I think Itay's presentation was really interesting. It was really, I mean, I learned a lot in that 1 hour session. And so first I want to introduce myself. So my name is Sigalit Ronen, and I'm a business professor at Cal State University in Northridge. My areas of expertise are organizational psychology or organizational behavior, leadership, managerial skills, and even HR. So I have some experience in these areas on the practical side. And I wanted to talk about a few psychological aspects that should be of interest to you when you're searching for a job. So the first thing I want to talk about, let me just share my slides. Okay. Okay. Okay, can you all see my slides?
It's going up for me.
Okay.
Now we see it.
I just looked at some research on the topic of job success, like success of job search. And apparently there's some predictors that you should be aware of. And one main predictor for an effective job, like finding a job, is active job search intensity. So following on what Itay presented, if you're looking for a job, you should take that very seriously and obviously invest as much time as you can in thinking about the position you want to apply to, looking at your CV, making sure that there's a match, thinking with yourself about the type of work you want to do, the type of environment you want to be in, like during like a whole day, year after year. So you definitely need to put some thinking into what position you're looking for, to what extent it matches with your skills, with your qualifications, with your responsibilities that you want to take, and preferences. And also, I mean, another thing you want to think about is also about your values and the organization you want to find yourself in, and to what extent the values that are like common or that the organization promotes are similar to yours. So, just general things to consider. And then we see that there's a very strong correlation between active job search intensity and the number of job interviews that people get. And from that point on, we know that the more interviews you get, the more likely you are to get like more job offers. And the more job offers you get, then the more likely you are to be in a position where you can choose those jobs that are probably better for you, and that can enhance your employment status. One thing that I think is interesting that was found in the studies is that informal job sources are not correlated to the number of offers you get. Sometimes the correlation is even negative. And with that, we're talking about a current or former employee of an organization, a friend or a relative who works or has worked with an organization, a friend or a relative who has not worked with an organization previously you worked for. And so basically, every source that's not formal, I don't want to say reduces your chances of getting a job offer, but let's say that it's not going to help you very much. So you want to focus on probably on more on better sources. And Itay mentioned contacting individuals that may serve as like contact persons for for that sake. One term that's very like researched in my area is self-efficacy. And self-efficacy, I just gave the definition here, is about a person's confidence in their ability to take actions that lead to desired outcomes. So here we're talking about your confidence in thinking that you can get a job in a certain domain. It's the belief that one can control their own actions, motivation, and the impact that they have on their surroundings. So you really want to ask yourself how confident you are that you can find a job in the type of organization you're looking to find a job at, and doing the job really, really well. So that's a very much like a psychological concept, but it's something quite real, right? I mean, I think every person knows the extent to which they feel confident in their skills, in their capabilities. And that is important because that confidence translates into action. And your behavior reflects the level of confidence that you have with regards to your skills, capabilities, and chances of getting a good job. So I would say, at an early stage, you should ask yourself that question about your self-efficacy and try to really enhance the level of confidence that you have or experience with yourself when you apply or apply for a job or start that process. And the things that can enhance the level of confidence that you experience can be associated with some experiences that you have, maybe taking certain courses, enhancing your knowledge in a certain domain, in a certain area, and really preparing yourself well to that interview that they're going to invite you to. Because if your resume passes through these these stages and you are being invited for an interview, then again you have to present yourself in a manner that will be effective, that you actually want to be impressive in the way you communicate. And when you communicate, you really need to talk about your experiences, the way you dealt with challenges, why you should always think why the recruiter should take you and not somebody else. So a few personality dimensions are relevant here, and I just came up with a list of a few of them that are important. So in the psychological literature, there's like an acronym it's called OCEAN, OCEAN, and there are like five main personality dimensions that have been linked with increases chances of finding a job, and in any domain. So OCEAN is an acronym of openness or openness to experiences, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and eroticism. So the first one is openness, and apparently there's a positive correlation between the level of openness that a person demonstrates and that person's chances of finding a good job, like a job that they think that they would want to find. So in order to come across as a person with a high level of openness, you basically have to demonstrate those high skills. So you want to come across as more inventive, sophisticated, creative, original, imaginative, enjoy playing with ideas, tend to be artistic, etc. So you don't want to present yourself as a person who's extremely high at that trait, but you definitely want people to think about you, that you are creative enough, open-minded, innovative, like, you're not overly traditional. Your vision of things is not just, black and white. You're more like open-minded, and that's a very important trait to convey. And all of these things that I'm presenting you, all these five traits, can be reflected in your CV. They can be reflected in your answers to questions in the interview. And in general, these five dimensions are related to success in any type of job, and even in like managing a successful life and relationships with people. I mean, yeah, you'll be surprised, but that's what we see, and these findings tend to be quite consistent. Now, there are different approaches about like personality and traits and all that. I would want you to think about it as habits. So if you currently don't feel like, for example, you have a high level of openness, then try to think about the type of habits you want to adopt in order for you to become that open-minded person, okay? So again, there's a positive correlation between openness and your chances of getting a job that you're applying for or looking to get. Conscientiousness is another very, very important dimension. And here, you want to not only mention on your resume that you are a hardworking person, organized, self-disciplined, show up on time, blah, 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 all these great traits that talk to the extent to which you are organized pretty much and can be trusted to do a good job, that you are dependable and all that. So you want everything that, like your approach, your general approach, you want your approach to demonstrate a high level of conscientiousness. So how do you go about that? You can, for example, Itay mentioned not submitting any resume that has grammatical errors or typos, or they just don't do a sloppy job. And when you apply for a position, make sure you read the like all everything that's posted for that job, and make sure that your resume addresses all these items in the posting. So and I know that there's a trade-off, and you don't want to spend like too much time writing a resume just for one specific job, but I would say you should err on the side of putting more effort than less effort when you're writing that, your resume or cover letter and all that. Because every time, these people, like recruiters, or, when they go over all the applications, they really don't have enough time to have like deep thoughts about each and every application. And when they see a typo, just one typo, they're just going to toss the application and not continue reading it because it indicates that the person is not serious enough. So just really do everything in your power to demonstrate a high level of conscientiousness. Just make that impression because that's the only thing you have. These people don't know you. They're not familiar with your background. The only thing they know is the things that you submit for that position. Extroversion. So apparently managers like extroverted subordinates. That's a very general theme. And I know that many people are not extroverted. The vast majority of people are anywhere between introversion and extroversion. But for the sake of, again, enhancing your chances of finding a job, you want to include in your resume or, when you are being interviewed, some elements that indicate that you are more sociable, more talkative, more you take action, you're more warm, you're more like open, tend to be assertive and energetic. I want you to think about assertive or assertiveness as a trait that portrays someone who's not aggressive on the one hand, but also not submissive. So you want to come across as someone who's like warm and trustworthy and very open and kind, but at the same time, quite dominant. Okay, so that's, again, an important trait. And you can think with yourself how your resume can demonstrate that, or how you can just, adopt these traits that are going to serve you in the job search process and in general at work. Agreeableness talks to the extent to which you're warm and nice and kind and pleasant to be around. And again, that is something you want to demonstrate when you are interacting with individuals. Every time you're being aggressive, that's not gonna really serve you well, and I'm sure you know that. But it really goes, to like greater lengths. You really want to think about yourself as demonstrating some level of agreeableness. It doesn't have to be extremely high, but just be kind and let your resume demonstrate that as well, or your cover letter. Neuroticism is the last trait. It's the opposite from emotional stability, and here we talk about people who are tend to be more worried. I want to say unstable. They have negative affect, which is like negative emotions. So there's a negative correlation here. Obviously, higher levels of neuroticism are associated with lower chances of finding a job. Again, you want to come across as less neurotic, but also for the sake of your well-being, you want to find ways to adopt habits that would help you lower your neuroticism level. So again, everything you do, every interaction you have with any person in the organization, you definitely want to think about these traits. That's it. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions or anything? Yes, Akshay.
Hi, Professor. I think that was amazing nomenclature, like ocean. I would definitely gonna remember these 5 points. I had one question, like as you said, these are like more towards like personality traits of a given person. So how can I demonstrate a stranger these in like a first glance? Like I'm just passing on my resume or like an application. So how would they get to know about me the best? So how can I integrate this into my text?
Okay, so that's a really good question. So you're referring to the big five, right? Like all these 5 traits. Okay, so one thing Itay said earlier that I really liked, he said, every person can write, I'm motivated and I'm a leader and I'm dominant, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it's not being substantiated with anything. And then you only have the adjective or whatever, but it's not really tied to anything that you did in the past, any experience that you had. So I would want your resume to look like, like it will include all these experiences that you had, but each of these experiences that you put on the paper should demonstrate these traits. So, for example, if you had an experience managing people, So you definitely want to emphasize being a team player, but that should be in the context of your experience. Just writing words, or is not, maybe not. It's not going to have an effect. But every time you describe your experience, you talk about yourself, talk about how you dealt with challenges. You want these characteristics to to shine. So, for example, you can talk about a hardship or a specific challenge that you had, and then you overcome that by working really hard. Like, for example, so you decided that you need to invest, like you put a time investment, for example, and you woke up every day 5, and you just did everything in your power to deal with the challenge until it was over. You were collaborative. You were like, made, I mean, sometimes they would ask you for references. So, I mean, your references should speak to the extent to which you are like warm and kind and team player and all these things. And you can go one by one and just see what are the things that you can demonstrate, and you can be creative with that.
And maybe to add on
Yeah, I think
that, there are two places that you can demonstrate it. The first thing is the way that you describe your resume. That is a way, and again, you can use LLM type of tools. For example, a lot of people will say, was responsible for, right? That's, it's gonna say something instead of like led, or like a more kind of active verbs versus passive verbs. That's
Right.
kind of maybe the theory behind why they use active verbs and not passive verbs, right? You don't want to look like somebody submissive that you have to tell them to do stuff in order for them to actually do something. So this is kind of the theory behind. The second thing is there is behavioral questions. Tell me about the time that somebody disagreed with you. And okay, how did you deal with that? Like, do you have any abilities to do like some conflict management, or you're like just complaining to your managers that that person doesn't listen, and that's basically your strategy?
right. Yeah, I think that helps. Thank you.
I think there was a question here. What would you say is the average time one should spend on personalizing the resume without reaching a point after which level of effort customizing resume has very little influence? I would say this. It took me maybe a minute to ask the personalization, and it suggested 3 bullets. Rewriting them is a few minutes. I would say for a single position, maybe 20 minutes, something along those lines, 10, 20 minutes, because you need to rewrite like just a few bullets and stuff, assuming your resume is good. So certain things, what will happen is, here's what will happen in reality. Certain things gets emphasized, certain things get de-emphasized. That's what happens in reality. You're like expanding certain bullets and reducing certain bullets. That's the reality. So let's say this is a database and you also done an AI, database goes big, AI goes small, or gets eliminated. That's what happens in reality. And that should take, assuming you apply to already enough positions and already have them, different versions of them, few minutes, less than an hour. And I think that's a reasonable time. Now, if you want to build a resume, that's different. But building a resume and writing a resume is not the same. Writing a resume means that's who you are, and now we're going to make the best of it. Building a resume means you're taking actions. If you're taking actions for a cluster. Yeah, I think we have
Thank
maybe
you.
7 minutes. Do you have questions, or should we maybe review one resume? You have
I put a
questions?
question in the chat for Sigalit, but in the best interest of time, if you can review that, and if you get a chance to respond, that'd be great. But
No,
if not, we can go ahead.
let's send the question to Sigalit.
Okay, so what's the question?
So I was just quickly going to
didn't see-
ask, there was a great visual on your first slide about the correlation between activities and outcomes when applying
Yes.
for a job, and then in which you kind of pointed out that informal job sources reduce our chances sometimes, which is negative correlation to
Yeah.
actually procuring a job. I also understand that most of the things which are categorized as informal job sources are actually sources which are people-based. So they are people that we build relationships with, which to me, hearing from my professional network is very important to build that relationship to finally get to a point where you when you're applying for the job at that position, you kind of get to understand, hear from them, use your network at a point where you have already built that relationship instead of starting the relationship when you're reaching out to them just for the job position. So how does one manage and balance building relationships early on, aka informal job sources, and to a position where it becomes formal and we can ask them for help?
So I want to say something about that. So when I put together the slide, so that was one thing that I saw, and the correlation is very low. And I really don't think we should, like, it's not big enough to think that there's a negative correlation. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. Now, I know that some studies, like the studies in the domain of politics, say something like that. If you have a choice between, you're looking for a job, okay, and you have a choice between asking a small group of people that you have sorry, small ties with, and I'm sorry, I really need to leave in like 2 minutes, but so the question goes as follows: if you have a choice between taking like finding help, getting help from people in your network, like people with whom you have close ties, as opposed to people with whom you don't have close relationships, but you know them really, like not really well. Who's more likely to help you find a job? And the answer that comes up from many studies shows that you would get more by approaching those people you don't know really well. And when I see that, like, that study that I just showed you, for me, that's informal job sources. So there are studies showing, like some studies show that informal job sources are actually quite beneficial. So I would say, like, use your, like when you make that decision, just, use your common sense. And I think that even informal job sources can help you. But like in this research, it shows that formal job sources are going to help you more. I think if you wanna just make sense of that information, that's like one thing you can take from it. So formal job sources will be more helpful to you than informal, but I wouldn't think that the negative correlation here is indicative of something, some like real phenomena. So
thank you.
I really like the question, and I wanted to say something about it earlier because for me, the active job search intensity is the main thing here, and I just wanted to emphasize the importance of putting the time, putting the effort in finding a job, and just treat that as a job as of itself, right? You want to really take it seriously, and you want to take yourself seriously in that process and work on your self-efficacy. Like seriously, in the sense of you really want to acknowledge, the skills that you have, everything about you that can contribute to not just finding a job, but keeping a job that you would also like enjoy and be able to contribute to that organization. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I know you got to run, but thank you for the insight.
You're very welcome. I'm really happy to help. If you have any questions, you can contact me later. And I really have to go. Itay, is that okay? Okay,
Yeah,
I mean, any
I'll
other
finish
questions?
with one resume. We have 2 minutes. I'll do one resume.
Okay.
But you can go. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I just yeah. Thank you.
So
thank you so much, Professor.
remember that your resume is a proposal. It's not you. It's a proposal. Don't get attached to your resume. Your resume is a proposal. So I'm going to show one resume in the 2 minutes that we have. So let's see. That's a resume. Thank you for removing this. So I'm just gonna show it for a few seconds, and I want people to say what kind of jumps out. I know actually I've seen many resumes by this point. So it's a
this is
page.
pretty unique, has a unique formatting.
Yes. So you don't want unique. That's one thing I would say. First thing that jumps out, this is a 6-page resume.
Yeah.
I've seen many product manager resumes of the year. I've interviewed hundreds and I've seen maybe thousands. This is non-standard. And it's non-standard in 2 ways. It's non-standard on the format, like kind of the left, right, the picture. It's non-standard. And also it's non-standard in the 6 pages. I never saw a good resume more than 2 pages. At least with people with 10, 15 years. Like, I'm not talking about maybe some CEO or something, but people who apply to product management. So I haven't seen more than 2. So I would say a 2-page. This is a 6, a non-standard format. Okay. Other things here is that if you will see, it starts with a profile as a seasoned, my expertise. I've worked in various industries, ETL, RDBMS, BI tools, BI. Again, this is non-standard. So not only non-standard in length and non-standard in template, also non-standard in the way that it begins. Sometimes there's something like really short, like maybe 4 sentences, 5 sentences, maybe. And then it goes, experience. But as you can see here, the employment history starts kind of on the 2nd page. Now, it might be that everything kind of maybe increased in size, but this is something to take into consideration. So I would say the first step is make it a standard template. This might drop at this, and not say might. I'm sure that this will get dropped because of the template and the structure across multiple either automatic system or recruiter, just because for not being standard. And again, don't get attached to it like, whatever. So just put it in a standard form, a 2-page, and start from there. And we are out of time. Thank you for joining. This is the first time we've done this webinar. Might do more in the future, not sure. Channel Itay on Software, ITAY on Software, either on YouTube or itayonsoftware.com. Happy to get your comments on future videos or things that you find useful. This is going to be posted online. And for the benefit of those who were not able to attend, either as a waiting list or just unable to attend at all. Okay, so thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate that.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Ty. This
Professor.
was great. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good evening. Bye, everyone.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Bye.